I left him because I got tired of faking orgasms. Yeah, I said it. And honestly, that's not even the worst part of the story. The worst part is how long it took me to realize that faking pleasure in bed was just the tip of the iceberg, you know? It was everywhere. I was performing in every single part of our relationship, and I didn't even know it. So if you've ever felt like you're putting on a show for someone who's supposed to love you, stick around. Because what I'm about to tell you might sound familiar. And by the end of this, you're gonna understand why ending it was the best decision I ever made. Let me tell you what happened. The day after I ended things, I woke up in my apartment and the silence was intense. Not bad intense, just different. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't have to think about someone else's needs before mine. I made coffee just for me. Sat on my couch in my underwear without worrying about looking cute. Scrolled through my phone without someone asking what I was looking at. And it hit me that I'd been holding my breath for years. My best friend called that morning. She was like, "Are you okay? Do you need me to come over?" And I told her something that surprised even me. I said, "I'm not okay, but I'm also kind of relieved." She got quiet for a second. Then she said, "Finally." Turns out everyone saw it except me. But let me back up a bit because you're probably wondering how I got here. How does someone go from being in a relationship to ending it over sex? It wasn't just about sex. It was never just about sex. We met through mutual friends at a party. He was charming, funny, had his life together. On paper, he was everything I thought I wanted. Good job, decent looking, treated me well in public. My family loved him. My friends thought we were perfect together. And for a while, I believed it too. The sex was okay at first. Not amazing, but I figured that's normal, right? You need time to learn each other's bodies, so I waited for it to get better. I gave feedback, tried to guide him, suggested things we could try. But here's the thing. He never really listened. Every time we had sex, it was the same routine. Same positions, same pace, same everything. And it was always about getting him there. Once he finished, that was it. Roll over, maybe a kiss on the forehead, then sleep. I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling empty. Not just physically, but emotionally too. And that's when I started faking it. At first, I told myself it was to protect his feelings. He'd ask, "Did you finish?" And I'd say yes, because I didn't want to hurt his ego. I didn't want the awkward conversation. I didn't want him to feel bad. But you know what? That's garbage. I was protecting myself too, because having that conversation meant admitting that something was wrong, and I wasn't ready to face that. So I faked it. Every single time. For almost 2 years. Living alone now, I started noticing things. Little things that I'd been ignoring for so long. Like how I could watch whatever I wanted on TV without someone making comments about it being stupid. How I could eat cereal for dinner without judgment. How I could go to bed early without someone trying to initiate sex when I was exhausted. It sounds small, but it added up. My sister came over one night about a week after the breakup. We ordered pizza, drank wine, and she asked me the question everyone was asking. What actually happened? You guys seemed fine. And that's when I started really talking about it, really unpacking it. I told her about the sex thing first because that was the easiest to explain. But as I talked, other stuff started coming out. Like how I'd gotten really good at reading his moods and adjusting myself accordingly. If he was stressed about work, I'd be extra supportive and never mention my own problems. If he wanted to hang out with his friends, I'd smile and say I had stuff to do anyway, even when I wanted to spend time with him. I told her how I started dressing the way he liked. Not in an obvious way, just I noticed which outfits got compliments and which ones got ignored, so I wore more of what he liked. I stopped wearing my hair in a bun because he mentioned once that it looked too casual. Started wearing makeup on lazy weekends because he'd say I looked tired without it. My sister just stared at me. Then she said, "That's not a relationship. That's an audition." And man, that hit different. Because she was right. I'd been auditioning for the role of perfect girlfriend for 3 years. And the sex thing? That was just part of the performance. The fake moans, the exaggerated reactions, the telling him how good it was when it wasn't. It was all theater. But here's what really messed me up. I didn't realize how deep it went until I was out of it. So let me tell you about the night I decided to end it, because it wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no cheating, no horrible betrayal. We were having sex. Same routine as always. And I was lying there, doing my usual thing, making the right noises at the right times. And suddenly I just stopped. Not physically. I went through the motions. But mentally, I checked out completely. I remember thinking, I don't want to be here. Not just in that moment, but anywhere with him. And it wasn't anger. It was just this calm, clear realization that I was done. He finished, asked if I did. I said yes, like always. We went to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there for hours, and it was like someone had turned on all the lights in my brain. I started seeing everything clearly for the first time. I thought about how I'd stopped mentioning my promotion at work because he got weird about me making more money than him. How I'd canceled plans with my friends multiple times because he wanted me home. How I'd started second-guessing every opinion I had because he'd always find a way to explain why I was wrong. I thought about how I'd stopped talking about my feelings because it always turned into him needing reassurance about our relationship. How I'd learned to laugh at jokes I didn't find funny. How I'd started apologizing for things that weren't my fault, just to end arguments faster. And the sex was just the most obvious example of the whole problem. I was giving and performing and adjusting and accommodating, and he was just taking everything I gave and never once asking if I actually wanted to give it. I ended it the next morning, just told him it wasn't working for me anymore. He was shocked. Kept asking what he did wrong. And the crazy thing is, he didn't do anything specifically wrong. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't cruel. He was just completely oblivious to who I actually was. Because I'd never shown him. I'd shown him the version of me that I thought he wanted. The first few weeks after were rough. Not because I missed him exactly, but because I missed the routine. I missed having someone to text goodnight. I missed having plans every weekend. I missed the security of being in a relationship. My mom kept calling, asking if we could work it out. She loved him, kept saying, "Relationships take work. You can't just give up." And I wanted to scream at her that I'd been working. I'd been working so hard that I'd lost myself completely. But she wouldn't get it, so I just said we wanted different things. I cried a lot those first weeks. But here's something weird. I wasn't crying about losing him. I was crying about all the time I'd wasted. 3 years of performing. 3 years of making myself smaller. 3 years of faking pleasure to avoid confrontation. I got angry too. Really angry. At him for never noticing. At myself for never speaking up. At everyone who told us we were such a great couple when clearly we weren't. I'd be at work, totally fine, and then something would trigger me. Like a coworker would mention their partner doing something thoughtful, and I'd realize mine never did stuff like that. Or I'd see a couple actually laughing together, and I'd remember that we barely laughed anymore by the end. But slowly, things started shifting. I started sleeping better. Like actually sleeping through the night without waking up anxious. I started eating better because I wasn't stress eating or eating to match his portions. I started exercising again because I wanted to, not because I thought I should. And the sex thing, I won't lie, that messed with my head for a while. I kept thinking, what if I'm broken? What if I can't actually enjoy sex and that's why I had to fake it? Then I met up with some friends one night, And after a few drinks, I told them everything. And one of them said something that changed my perspective. She said, "You're not broken. You were just with someone who didn't care about your pleasure." Simple as that. About 2 months after the breakup, I started therapy. Not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to understand why I'd stayed so long, why I'd been so willing to erase myself for someone else's comfort. My therapist asked me a question in our second session that I couldn't answer. She said, "What do you actually like? Not what you think you should like, or what your ex liked, or what makes you a good girlfriend. What do you like?" I sat there for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't answer. I genuinely didn't know. That's when I realized how bad it had gotten. I'd spent so long performing that I didn't know who I was anymore. My tastes, my opinions, my preferences. I'd morphed them all to fit what he wanted. So I started a weird experiment. I started trying things just to see if I liked them. Went to movies alone, tried new restaurants, signed up for a pottery class, wore outfits that felt good on me regardless of whether they were flattering, stayed home on weekend nights without feeling guilty about it. And slowly, I started finding myself again. Or maybe finding myself for the first time, because I'm not sure I ever really knew who I was before. I realized I actually like going to bed early. I'm not boring. I just function better with 8 hours of sleep. I realized I hate action movies, but I'd been watching them for years because he loved them. I realized I'm way funnier than I thought I was. I'd just been holding back because he didn't get my sense of humor. The sex thing started making sense too. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy sex. I just didn't enjoy sex with someone who treated my body like a prop in his own experience. Sex is supposed to be mutual, you know? It's supposed to be about both people being present and connected and actually caring about each other's pleasure. I'd been having sex that was all performance and no connection. No wonder I had to fake it. Here's something nobody tells you about breakups. Sometimes the hardest part isn't missing the person. It's facing the fact that you let yourself disappear. I was mad at him for a while. Really mad. For not noticing, for not caring, for taking everything I gave without ever thinking to give back. And yeah, he deserves some blame. He was selfish and oblivious and lazy in our relationship. But I had to own my part too. I'm the one who faked it. I'm the one who pretended everything was fine. I'm the one who never spoke up about what I actually wanted or needed. I did that. Not him. Me. And that was a hard pill to swallow. Because it meant that all those years of feeling unseen and unheard, part of that was on me for not demanding to be seen and heard. For accepting breadcrumbs and calling it love. My therapist helped me understand that it wasn't all my fault. That I'd learned to accommodate and please from a young age, probably from watching my mom do the same thing. That women are taught to be agreeable and pleasant and not make waves. That I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do. But understanding why I did it didn't change the fact that I did it. I had to forgive myself for that, for wasting time, for settling, for faking orgasms and enthusiasm and happiness, for being so afraid of being alone that I stayed with someone who didn't really know me. That forgiveness thing, it's still a work in progress. Some days I'm cool with it. I tell myself I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. Other days I want to go back and shake my former self and yell, "Wake up! You deserve better than this." But I'm getting there. So here's the thing that nobody expects when they go through a breakup like this. You think the hard part is leaving. You think once you make the decision and rip off the Band-Aid, you're free. But the real challenge comes after. It's not about getting over the person. It's about unlearning all the behaviors that kept you stuck in the first place. I realized something a few months ago that kind of blew my mind. I was on a date with someone new. Nice guy, we'd been talking for a few weeks, decided to meet up for coffee. And I caught myself doing it again. He mentioned he liked jazz music, and I immediately started talking about how I love jazz too. Except I don't. I think jazz is boring as hell. But there I was, already morphing into what I thought he wanted. I stopped mid-sentence and just said, "Actually, that's not true. I don't really like jazz. I don't know why I said that. He laughed and said, "Okay, so what do you actually like?" And we had a real conversation. It was weird and awkward and also kind of great. That's when I understood. The relationship ending wasn't the plot twist. The real twist was discovering that I'd been living like this my whole life, not just with him. Every relationship, every friendship, every interaction. I'd been performing, always reading the room, adjusting my personality, saying what people wanted to hear. I'd become so good at it that I didn't even notice I was doing it anymore. Faking orgasms was just the most literal version of a thing I'd been doing everywhere. Faking interest in things I didn't care about. Faking agreement with opinions I didn't share. Faking enthusiasm for plans I didn't want to make. I'd been faking my whole personality. And leaving him didn't automatically fix that. I had to actively work on being honest. On saying what I actually thought. On being okay with people not liking my real self. That's way harder than I expected. So now I'm in this weird phase where I'm like a teenager learning social skills for the first time. Except I'm a grown adult who should already know this stuff. I'm learning to say no without over-explaining. I'm learning that my preferences matter even when they're inconvenient for other people. I'm learning that being honest doesn't make me difficult or high maintenance. I'm also learning about sex again. Not with anyone specific, just learning what I actually like. What feels good, what doesn't. What I want to try. What's a hard no for me? Turns out I actually have a lot of opinions about sex. I just never expressed them because I thought being low maintenance and easygoing was more important than having needs. The whole orgasm thing isn't even about orgasms, you know? It's about being present. It's about being with someone who cares whether you're enjoying yourself. It's about being able to be honest about what's working and what isn't. And if I'm being real with you, I'm terrified of getting into another relationship. What if I fall into the same patterns? What if I meet someone and just start performing again without even realizing it? But I'm also kind of excited. Because now I know what to look for. I know the warning signs. I know what it feels like when I start erasing myself to make someone else comfortable. And I know I don't want to live like that anymore. It's been almost a year since I ended things. People keep asking if I'm dating anyone, if I'm ready to get back out there. My mom especially. She's worried I'm going to be alone forever because I'm too picky now. But here's what I figured out. I'm not too picky. I'm just not willing to settle for someone who doesn't see me anymore. And yeah, that might mean I'm single for a while. Maybe a long while. But I'm okay with that. Actually, I'm more than okay with it. I like my life right now. I like coming home to my apartment and not having to perform. I like making decisions based on what I want. I like discovering things about myself that I never knew before. Last month, I cut my hair short. Like, really short. The kind of haircut he would have hated. And I love it. It feels like me. I also started being more honest with my friends and family. Not in a mean way, just real. When my mom suggests something I don't want to do, I say so instead of making up excuses. When my friends want to go somewhere I'm not into, I tell them, and we figure something else out. Some people don't love this new version of me. My mom thinks I've become difficult. An old friend told me I've changed and not in a good way. And you know what? That's fine. If people only liked me when I was pretending, then they didn't actually like me anyway. The people who matter have been amazing. My sister told me she's proud of me. My best friend said I seem lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. And she's right. I had been carrying something. The weight of constantly performing, constantly adjusting, constantly shrinking myself to fit into someone else's life. I'm not carrying that anymore. So if you're watching this and you're in a relationship where you're faking it, I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about faking happiness, faking compatibility, faking who you are to keep someone who doesn't really know you anyway. It's exhausting, right? And lonely. You can be in a relationship and still be completely alone because nobody actually sees you. They just see the performance. And I know leaving is scary. I know starting over is hard. I know everyone's going to have opinions and advice and judgment. But I also know that living honestly is better than living comfortably. I know that being alone is better than being with someone and still feeling alone. I know that your pleasure matters. Your preferences matter. Your authentic self matters. You don't have to fake anything to be worthy of love. Not orgasms, not enthusiasm, not interest, not personality traits, nothing. The right person won't need you to perform. They'll want to know the real you, messy parts and all. And until that person shows up, you get to be yourself, just for you. No audience, no performance. Just you, figuring out who you actually are and what you actually want. That's where I am now. Still figuring it out, still learning, still messing up sometimes and falling into old patterns. But I'm doing it honestly. And that makes all the difference. I don't regret the relationship. It taught me a lot, even if most of those lessons were about what I don't want. And I don't hate him. He wasn't a villain. He was just someone who was perfectly happy with a version of me that wasn't real. But I'm done performing, done faking, done shrinking. And honestly, I've never felt freer. So yeah, I left him because I got tired of faking orgasms. But really, I left because I got tired of faking everything. And if you're tired too, maybe it's time to stop. You deserve to be real. You deserve to be seen. You deserve pleasure and honesty and connection. And you definitely deserve better than having to fake it. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more honest breakup stories. And remember, you're stronger than you know. Bye.